Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today I'm going to do a Q&A video, which is the first Q&A video of 2022. So let's get started. Assume Tiger has asked, any good cars for the school run? Prefer a hybrid but don't mind anything. Needs to be reliable and comfy. Straight away, I don't know your budget, Assume Tiger, but I would say an RX 400 hybrid. I prefer the 400 to the 450. And you can pick up a good 400 hybrid for 5 or 6 grand. They're reliable, smooth, quick enough, comfortable. Yeah, I can't think of a better one than that. How's that for product placement? These are available on the website, highpeakstore.co.uk. That wasn't too cringeworthy, was it? Right, next question. Mark Horrigan. Hi Matt, been watching your videos over the Christmas and New Year, really enjoying them. Thank you, Mark. We live nearby. Anyway, my question is, which Land Rover product would you buy if you had a budget of between 25 and 30 grand? Need to carry 4 adults at most, won't be doing anything serious, but needs to be comfortable and capable for fishing trips to Scotland and Ireland. I would say then, for that kind of money, a Range Rover Sport. You won't get a good enough full-size Range Rover, I don't think, for that kind of money, but a Range Rover Sport, you will. Steve Eggington. Hi Matt, when you get the cars you buy ready for resale, do you do any of the preparation or repairs yourself, or is the work farmed out? Clearly have a lot of knowledge for common problems and fixes. Has this all been gained from personal experience of fixing them? To be honest with you, I don't have the time anymore. I work every day and it's just easier to farm the work off to somebody else. I'm better, or I can better use my time doing other things rather than fixing them myself. So no, unless it was something fairly straightforward or fairly quick and easy, I don't bother, to be honest, anymore. Jake Gordon. Hi Matt, how old are you? And also, can you do a review on a Renault Espace 3.5 V6? And what's your opinion on a super light Caterham? Well, that is one extreme to the other, isn't it? With the Renault Espace at one end to the super light Caterham at the other. I can't see me ever doing a review of an Espace, to be honest. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Never say never. I'm 32, by the way, and my opinion on a Caterham, I've never had one, never even driven one. I would quite like to get one on the channel, but I'm not sure how I'd film that because there'd be way too much wind and road noise. But we'll see. Keelam King has asked, will you ever do a review on the last generation L322 Range Rover, i.e. the 4.4 litre V8, and if somebody should buy one? Funny you should say that, because I bought one a couple of days ago and I will do some videos with it. I love the L322, and particularly the last of, with that 4.4 litre diesel V8, are great cars. So yes, watch this space. There'll be a video coming very soon. On a similar theme, Nolan Stavely Haynes has said, morning Matt, hope you're well. My question is, I'm a massive Range Rover L322 nut, so am I. Do you prefer an old L322 with character, or the L405? If your budget will stretch, then go for an L405 because they're far better. They're lighter, better on fuel, quicker, more modern. You get things like a power tailgate, deployable side steps, which I know you can get on the L322, but you're better off going for an L405. But yeah, there's really nothing wrong with the L322. I still think they look great. They're just timeless. They're just class, aren't they? Stuart Yaxley has asked, what's the most annoying thing that people do with trade-ins, do's or don't do? One thing that I see very often is people never wash them before they come and trade them in. Now, I'm not saying this to save me a job or anything, because they get cleaned anyway, but you will get more money for your part exchange if you present it in a presentable state. It's common sense, and yet people don't do it. Most part exchanges that I see are absolute buckets. They've only got one key because they can't find the other one, or it's at home or something like that. And I just think, if you've come to the garage with the intention of buying a new car to get as much as possible for your old car, then make a bit of an effort. So find your spare key, get all the paperwork, put it all in a folder so it looks like you've got, so it looks like you've taken pride and care of it, and take it to your local car wash, spend £10 and get it cleaned. I guarantee you'll get an extra couple £100 for it, but people don't do it. But it doesn't really bother me, to be fair, but if you want more money for your part exchange, then yeah, try and get organised with it. Andy F has asked, hi Matt, love your videos and insight into the used car market. Do you trade with other car dealers to move stock around? And do customers ask you to source vehicles? Yes and yes. So I think it's quite common really to trade cars between other car dealers. If you've had a car that's over age or whatever, yeah, that's quite common. Usually I'll try and do that if I've got a car that's been lying around for 3 months or sometimes longer than that. Usually there's nothing wrong with that particular car. You just find that for one reason or another, it won't sell on your forecourt. So usually I'll try and buy a more expensive car from another dealer and use that as just a part exchange, basically. More often than not, though, they'll think that you're trying to slot into them some sort of problem car, which often isn't the case, but for one reason or another just hasn't sold with you. So yes to that, and yes to the customers asking me if I source vehicles. People ask me that. I must get a dozen emails a day, and I'm not exaggerating, from people asking me to source them cars, and I wish I could, but I just don't have the time. I could spend a full day going through a customer's requirements. Yes, what colour would you like? What, all that sort of stuff. I just haven't got the time for that. So sorry to anyone who does email me, but I just haven't got the time. Motown, Northern Ireland, I guess that is, NI. Have you ever sold or owned an electric car? And what electric car would you consider buying? I'm still a bit of an electric car skeptic, to be honest. I have owned an electric car, my Fiat 500e, which is now sold, which I loved, but that was just more of a toy, really, because it was a cute little Fiat 500 that was fun to drive, but with a range of like 100 miles tops. It wasn't something that you could have ran as your only car. So I know there are cars out there with a 300-mile range, but I still wouldn't have one as my only car. I still don't think it's the future, to be honest, although it's been pushed towards us. I still don't think that that's the way to go. Graham Moore Grundy. Hi Matt, what's the best site to get a realistic car valuation? This is quite a good question, actually. What I would do, rather than, you can try We Buy Any Car and all that kind of stuff. Everybody has one of those sites these days. Evans Holshaw, Motorway, I think there's another one called. The best thing to do, though, is the old-fashioned way. So go onto Auto Trader, find a car that's like yours, and then knock off 20% or 25%, which would be the dealer's margin. And that way you can work out what yours would be worth as a trade-in. To be honest, that's still what I use to value cars. If I'm struggling to value something, or quite frequently I'll type a reg of a car and the mileage into my dealer portal Auto Trader site, and it'll come up with a value that sometimes I just don't believe. It's either very low or very high. So the best way of working out its value is to do that. Find another one with a similar spec in a similar colour and knock off the dealer's margin. Macbo Bob has asked, I've just bought my first car, I'm a new driver. What do you see new car drivers most commonly mess up when it comes to maintaining and looking after their first car? When it comes to your first car, I don't think it really matters. It's all about experience and having accidents in it and stuff like that. I don't think it really matters. Just enjoy it, learn from it, try and keep it running right, obviously. But if you scratch it or scrape it, that's what having a first car is all about. It doesn't really matter, does it? It's better to do that in a cheaper first car, so that when you finally progress to something nicer, you're a bit more careful. Shuva Day has asked, hi Matt, Happy New Year. What do you think the future of petrol and diesel cars are today? It's not great. Do you think this will affect future classics? No, I think there'll always be a demand for petrol and diesel. There are enough petrol heads out there to keep that demand going. I don't know. I haven't got a crystal ball. I really don't know anything more than you know at home. There will always be people with classic cars. For example, my SL55 I plan to keep forever, and it will need some fuel, well, lots of fuel, to run off. So I imagine by then there'll be some sort of synthetic fuel that you could buy. Perhaps that's the future. I'm not sure. Mystic Tomato has asked, hey Matt, nice way to kick off the new year. Anyway, here it is. You've been in the business for long now. How do you feel about where the automobile industry is going? What are your thoughts of every brand now having their own city crossover SUV thing and putting a slim little 1.3 or 1.6 litre engine in them? I'm not a fan, to be honest. I think you're asking too much of small engines. We've seen it with Ford's 1 litre EcoBoost thing. When you put that engine in a C-Max or a Mondeo or even a Focus, you're asking too much. You're far better asking a big engine not to work very hard rather than a small engine to work overtime. It just doesn't end well. It might be fine while they're under warranty, but after that, you're into big headaches and big bills. Matthew Tetley has asked, is the E39 the dog's nuts? Matthew Tetley is referring to the E39 BMW, which was around from 96 to 2002, I believe, the 5 Series. I love those cars. The trouble is nowadays, especially here in the UK and other places with bad climates, they're all rust buckets. So it's tricky to find a nice one. Everyone that's come in part exchange recently, I took one in part exchange for a couple £100 a couple of years ago. I did a video with it actually. And they're just rotten. That one had holes in the wings and all sorts, but they're great cars. Particularly the M5, the E39 M5 is one of my all-time favourites. Next up, Ayadeji Gunro has asked, hi Matt, I'm after a reliable 7-seater with 3 ISOFIX points in the middle row, as we have 3 kids. Contemplating a Ford SMax ST line. They're good looking cars, but wouldn't really do it for me. Or a Peugeot 5008 GT. Again, good looking cars, but I wouldn't want to see one on my driveway every day. Or on the higher end of the market, do you think it's better to go for an XC90 on a 16 or 17 reg? Now we're talking. I would go for the XC90 100%. It will hold its value better, and it's a nicer car to use every day. 16, 17, that will be the new shape XC90, which I haven't reviewed yet, but they're great looking cars and the interiors are beautiful. So yeah, definitely go for one of those. Avoid the first two. AD Morsley has asked, would you entertain a classic as an everyday motor? I'm a sado. I like Austin, Morris, especially Maestros and Marinas. You need to seek some professional help, AD. I know these will be a no, but are there any classics that make a daily driver sense reliably? Yeah, especially modern classics, because there's less to go wrong. If you can pick up let me think of something off the top of my head. It might not be old enough for you this, but something like an E46 330 or something, there's not that much that can go wrong, apart from, rust issues on the wings. And they'd be great to use on a daily basis. I'm not sure something like a Maestro or Marina, I wouldn't entertain that, to be honest, but something with fuel injection rather than a carburetor, yeah, there's no reason why that wouldn't be reliable. And there are things like no DPF filters and no silly sensors and stuff, so yeah, definitely. I mean, for a short period, maybe only 2 or 3 weeks, I used my SL on a daily basis and loved using it. The only thing that got a bit annoying was the lack of Bluetooth hands-free, Bluetooth streaming, that sort of stuff. But no, absolutely, if that doesn't really bother you, then yeah. Liam Sink has asked, what happened to these cars? The Saab 9.3 that I bought for a couple £100. That I then sold to a friend who buys some of my cheaper part exchanges. He then sold that on. I think he made a couple £100 profit. The Skoda Superb is currently at the body shop having some paint work. The Mercedes ML, again I sold to my friend and he sold on. The Honda Accord, I should have done another video with that, but that really got transformed. I had the front and back bumpers painted. What else did I have done? A fog lamps around done. New brake discs and pads. What else did I have done? Can't remember. Anyway, I sold it off the forecourt. It done 30 odd thousand miles, so I had so much interest in that car, it was unbelievable. The BMW 535, you'll see an update video with that soon because that's very nearly ready. The Mercedes R-Class, again I sold that to my friend and he sold it to a friend of his, so I see that driving around the village every day. The Honda Civic Type R, I sold that to a friend of mine, and again, I see that car on a very regular basis, he loves it. The Volvo V60 in Burgundy, it was actually a V50. I sold that to my mechanic, who, I don't even know what he's done with that, I've not seen it since, I should ask him. He was trying to get it fixed up and use it as a fishing car, I think. Before we continue, I must give a shout out to today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark, who are a VPN service provider. Basically, whenever you're online, it encrypts all your private details, both to and from your devices, helping to keep you safe whilst you're online. It also hides your IP address so cyber thieves can't view it. What I mainly use Surfshark for though is with streaming sites such as Netflix, because when you try and watch your favourite TV show or movie, sometimes it won't let you because it's not available in your country or region. But by using Surfshark you can change your location settings to whichever country you like, and then all of a sudden a whole raft of TV shows and movies suddenly become available. That of course is handy if you're based here in the UK but you want to watch your favourite TV show from the US, but it's also handy if, for example, you go on holiday to Spain and you still want to watch your favourite TV shows back from home. In addition to that, it blocks malware, phishing, ads and other kinds of nastiness, which in turn can speed up your bandwidth and make your device run much more smoothly. You can download the app very easily from the App Store and use it on an unlimited number of devices. It's cheap and very user-friendly. It's definitely worth protecting yourself if you do a lot of online shopping or you frequently use public Wi-Fi spots, such as at airports, train stations, fast food restaurants, that sort of thing. It's definitely worth keeping yourself safe. The last thing I want to do is have my credit card details stolen or my bank account hacked into, and since I've been using Surfshark, touch wood, that hasn't happened. If you use the link below, which is surfshark.deals/highpeakautos, they'll give you 3 months totally free and 83% off. And we're not talking a huge expensive commitment here either, it works out about £1.35 a month. So if you shop online, do online banking, or you just want to watch The American Office, definitely check out Surfshark. Right, back to the questions. Oh, here's an interesting one. Okay, hi Matt, does non-OEM or standard kit on a car lower its trading value? For example, non-standard wheels, a remap, cosmetic changes. People often say, I've added value by fitting those S-line wheels, etc. That type of stuff. Yes and no. What I would say is, if you've put better wheels on your car, it's a tricky one this, because I kind of make this up as I go along. If, for example, you've got a an SE BMW but you put M Sport wheels on it, that's a plus. If you've got an SE Audi but you put S-Line wheels on it, that again is a plus because you've improved the vehicle's looks and added value to it, so you should get more money when trading it in. What I would say is if you've had it remapped, lowered, put silly Wolf Race alloys on it and that sort of stuff, it just isn't my cup of tea at all. So straight away when somebody sends me an email and they say I've got a Focus ST and I've modified it, it's running at 500 brake, it's had a stage 5 remap, I think, no. Take it to eBay that just sounds like a headache. So yes and no. If there's subtle, modest, sensible upgrades, yes, good. If it's Stockport Cruise, Asda car park at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, then no, not interested, thanks. Jamie C, will diesel cars become the lepers of the road? They already are, aren't they? I've never been a fan of diesel fuel at all, even 10 years ago when they were popular. I've just never got on with it. But for some cars, especially like my Range Rover, it makes sense because you get an extra 10 miles per gallon over the petrol version, and for a long road trip, it means that you have to stop far less frequently. So in some cars, and especially trucks and lorries and buses, it still makes sense. But yes, I had a funny story actually. I bought a VW Tiguan 2-litre diesel recently. Bought it from a main dealer as a part exchange. I think it was £5,500, whatever the figure was. When I picked it up, I checked through the car's service history and it was a local car to me. When I saw the previous owner's address, it was around the corner, so he'd used the same workshop that I use. So I took it back down there for a service and MOT, and the people from the workshop said, oh, this is so-and-so's car. Luckily, they didn't have any horror stories. It was, it's always been maintained well. Anyway, a couple of days later, I went to go and pick up the car, and the workshop guys said, oh, the previous owner stopped by, just by chance, and he saw that car there, his old car, and he was asking about it and who bought it and all that sort of stuff, so they told him a local car dealer bought it. And he had a whinge, and he said, oh, well, the only reason I bought a brand new electric car was so that car got off the road. Thinking, well, yeah, but if you're going to be so righteous about it, why didn't you scrap it? Because by trading it in for a substantial amount of money, surely you knew that it was going to continue to live, continue to be driven on the road. What a ridiculous thing to say. So some people are quite righteous about it, and I don't like those people, so I try and avoid those people at all costs. Anyway, did that answer your question, Jamie C? I don't know. Went on a bit of a rant there. Next question. Tom Edinburgh. What guidance would you give to a first-time buyer? Keep it simple, basically. I might do a video with this, the best cars to buy for first-time buyers. But my advice would be, everybody wants something quick and flashy and sporty for their first car. But it's not going to happen. Your insurance is going to cripple you. You won't be able to afford to run it. So, yeah, just stick to something cheap. You'll enjoy it anyway because you're liberated. Do you know what I mean? You can go and do whatever you like. So, stick to something simple, like an Igo or a Polo or a Suzuki Swift. You'll love it anyway, so yeah. Regarding advice, don't drive it like a loon, don't write it off, do you know what I mean? Because there's this stigma around 17-year-old lads that this is why everyone else pays more for insurance, because you'll end up crashing into a tree at 3 in the morning. So just try and be fairly sensible. Adnan Shah, hi Matt, I've got 10 years plus sales experience working for a franchise main dealership, and my customers were always overwhelmed by my honesty and huge encyclopedic knowledge of cars, which seems to be the same trait with you. I've always wanted to start my own dealership, selling a specialist range of cars. However, each time I look into it, with the outlay and the running costs, it doesn't seem worthwhile. What's your advice to starting up your own dealership? Many people in the industry say it's now way too hard to start up in the motor trade. Do you agree? I have a huge passion for cars. No, go for it. 100% go for it. People said that to me. People that I knew within the job said that when I started 6 years ago. There's no money in it now, things have changed, but that's not true. I've done very well, and that is just because I'm prepared to work 7 days a week, and I'm honest, basically, and I've got a good reputation, I think. So, no, there's still plenty of money in it. Just go for it. This isn't a plug for my online sales course or anything, by the way, but I have started an online course, so check that out. I'll leave the link below in the comments, in the video description. Check that out. You can subscribe to that, ask me any questions, and hopefully that will help you out. But no, I think people in all walks of life just always like to moan, don't they? I hear this from a mate of mine who's a police officer actually, and he always says the same thing. Anytime he speaks to somebody who's been in 20 years, says, oh, it's rubbish these days, you've lost all the perks and lost this and that. But no, things change. We've got to roll with it, haven't we? In the words of Oasis. Right. Next question, Safe Danger. Hey Matt, what's the absolute best budget used reliable car for an international student getting their first car in the UK? Just overall best value for money with running costs, insurance, fuel, car price, reliability, ULEZ, all factored in. Would really appreciate this one. Basically, you need to watch my last video on the top 10 most reliable cars, because I know they're very dull and boring, but they are everything you've just mentioned. Cheap to run, reliable, ULEZ compliant. Stick with something Japanese, small engine, petrol, naturally aspirated, no turbos. Something like a Suzuki Swift, basically. 1.3 petrol or a 1.5 petrol. Yeah, I can't see any wrong with that. Jacob Carroll, do you recommend a used Range Rover Sport for a first car, i.e. 2012? As a first car, it depends how old you are and your budget. Because if you're 17, you've got no money and you collect glasses at your local pub, like a lot of 17-year-olds do, then you're not going to have money when something breaks, and it will break because it's a used Range Rover. So, no, in a nutshell. If you're mid to late 20s or older and you've got a contingency fund and you earn decent money, then yes, because when the compressor breaks and it's going to cost you the best part of £1,000 maybe, job done, at least you'll be able to afford to repair it. So basically, to answer your question in a nutshell, if you can afford it, yes. If you're on a tight budget, no. Phil Webb, hi Matt, have you still got your LS430? If so, would love an update on your plans. No, I haven't actually. I got an email out of the blue a good few months ago from a viewer who made me an offer on it, and it was a very good offer, to be honest. And I wasn't using it, so I thought I'd take it. So I went and delivered it to him. And in fact, he emailed me a couple of weeks ago to see if I wanted to buy it back, because his circumstances have changed. He doesn't use it. He's done about 500 miles on it, and it's sitting outside his house. So I might try and buy that back. It's a great car, that. There's something about those old LS430s, they're great to drive, really comfortable. Dunk Mac has asked, hi Matt, do you take any old car for part exchange? And if you don't, have any customers got really offended if you refuse their car as part exchange? Really enjoy the content, thanks Duncan. Duncan, to answer your question, I quite like taking in something really cheap and rubbish basically as a part exchange, because if it's only worth a couple £100, the customer knows that, and there's no risk for me because I can just scrap it. The price of metal's gone through the roof at the moment, so even something like a Corsa or a Ford KA, I'll get the best part of £200 for it in scrap, so there's really no risk. It gets tricky with part exchanges. Sometimes they can be offended if it's something a little bit too specialist, and I have refused to take part exchanges plenty of times over the years if it's something that I just don't want, if it's not my market. I remember a few years ago somebody tried to trade in a Nissan 350Z, and it'd been modified, had a big exhaust. I think it was an import. There was very little history, and he wanted like £6,000 for it or something. And I remember offering him something like 2 because I didn't want it, and in my mind I thought it was probably worth £2,500. So bid 2. If I get it, fine. I'll deal with that. And he got really properly offended and stormed off. But what can I do? I'm a business. I've got to look out for my own interests. I'm not just going to take in any old thing. So yes and no. These mugs are brilliant. Best reliable diesel saloon for town use. 3 to 4k. Probably, I know they're boring, but probably a Passat. Get the cam belt done, service them, and you can't really go wrong. The 2 litres are better than the 1.6, so go for a 2 litre TDI Passat. Or what else? No, that's pretty much all I can think of. Or maybe something like a Volvo I forget the Volvo range. Is it an S40? Something like an S40, automatic. Try and go for the 2.4 diesel. Alessandro Ferrero has said, love this channel, should be on telly. Well, grazie, Alessandro. Shear64, would you buy an EV with 100,000 miles if the battery pack was tested good? If you have a look on Auto Trader, things like Teslas have got monster miles. Some of them have got in excess of 100,000 miles. So if the battery pack was tested as good, then yeah, I'd have no doubts. Without testing the battery, then probably not, no, because it is a lot of miles. And I just think with EVs, like anything that you've got that's battery powered, like my laptop and my phone, whatever it is, after you've had them 12 months, they're never as good as they were the day you bought them. and a car will just be more of the same, won't it? That's what puts me off. Alan Amos has asked, in your opinion, what cars are heading to the classic status in the next few years? I'm thinking more about cars approaching the 25-year-old mark from the 95 to 2005 period. This is something that I often think about, and if I had the space and the money, then I would be dangerous, because I'd just be buying all sorts and stashing it away. You can't go wrong with things like Mercedes SLs, because the previous generation, that kind of mid-90s wedge shape, which for years has been quite undesirable, they're heading up in value. So if you can get a good one of those, that's definitely worth buying. And even the mine's gone blank. The R230, like my SL55, if you can find one of those from like 02 or 03, they're right at the bottom of the depreciation curve at the moment. So that would be worth buying if you could find a nice one. I always think with classics, it's got to be something that's desirable, because it will always be desirable. That sounds very basic, doesn't it? Very common sense way of thinking about it. But something that's a convertible, I think, will always have value. I think saloons less so, unless it's something like an E38 BMW or an E39 BMW for that matter, or something like an M series BMW or an RS or an S Audi. So try and stick to something simple, I would say. Something convertible. That way, at least, when it's old, you can still have some fun in it. Something like a Saab 9.3 convertible. If you can find a nice one of those from the late 90s or early 2000s, it will definitely go up in value, and you'll be able to enjoy using it when the sun's out. M60 CAF, I assume that's your reg rather than your name. The project cars you buy and pay people to do up. Have you ever thought of doing the work yourself? Yes, but I haven't got the time. I literally don't have the time. So it's better for me to go and do something else more productive and just pay somebody an hour's labour to do the job, rather than me struggle and faff around with it. So yes and no. Tom T has asked, would you rather have 1 million subscribers or City win the Champions League? Which one are you going for? To be honest, I'm not that bothered about the Champions League. I would take Premier League winners every single year. Never been that bothered about winning the Champions League. So I would say, from a very selfish point of view, the 1 million subscribers. Eric Fox, hi Matt, isn't it about time you did a review on the Range Rover Velar? Then you've covered the entire range. I do want to, I just haven't had one. So if you're local to me and you've got a nice Velar that you'd like me to film with, then email me, matt@highpeakautos.com. So yes, Eric, definitely, I'll try and do it this year. Flaming Hedgehog has asked, favourite hot hatch for under 5k? Now, I'm not a hot hatch fan, as I've mentioned many times, but for £5 I would buy a Mark II Ford Focus ST. That 2.5 litre turbo engine is brilliant. I'd go for a dark blue. I wouldn't go for an orange because it's too Asbo-y. Yeah, I'd have one of those cars. I think they're great. So yeah, Mark II Ford Focus ST. Well, I think that's it. Thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave the link below. Check out Surfshark. That's surfshark.deals/highpeakautos to get your discount. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Cheers.